What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only Tesla stock and what you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to do some in-depth technical analysis and give you guys my price prediction for tomorrow based off the charts are showing and based off the data is suggesting. I'm also going to break down what's going on with the overall economy, the big events coming out for this week, and break down how they may affect Tesla's share price. Now, before I break anything down, before I talk about any pieces of data, I do have to mention a couple of things real quick. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire Tesla community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000. And the best part is you'll also have the chance to win $60,000. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in 10 days. Check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. Looking at Tesla, this thing was up about 0.08% for the day on Friday, and overall Tesla has been outperforming the markets, but we do have some very interesting things coming out for the week that will affect Tesla. Now, to start us off, we have some nice news that came out. We can see right here, there are lots of people talking about how amazing the Tesla Semi is. We're seeing lots of positive remarks about it, and it could actually make a very nice motor home. It's something that some people have talked about, and I think that's very much true. This would be very awesome. I think lots of investors would love this, and this could be a huge catalyst for the long-term future. Now, as far as the data goes, looking at Tesla, it still looks very strong. Right here, a very nice bullish continuation on the price pairs ratio. This shows that Tesla's outperforming the overall market, and we are starting to catch up to SPY. Compared to the QQQ, it's almost identical. Tesla is going to contribute, in my opinion, to dragging this thing up, and it does look like this thing has more room to continue going forward. So to me, Tesla looks a lot more bullish than bearish. We're seeing some very nice volume in these zones. We're seeing lots of buyers still stepping in. And on top of that, many institutions are still quite bullish. Tesla tends to be green about 53% of the time on Mondays, so it's another good sign. Tuesdays also tend to be green about 51% of the time, so I'm hoping for another nice continuation. Now, although Decembers are historically not the best months for Tesla, I'm hoping that this December is a little bit different, at least as we approach CPI. Now, Tesla tends to not be very super strong during the openings. It tends to actually push up for the first 30 minutes or so, and it isn't until the first or second hour when Tesla really starts to show some nice volume and some nice price action. It tends to slow down a little bit afterwards, and then during the last 2 to 3 hours are when Tesla tends to be a lot more strong. So watch that very carefully if you are trading this thing. Tesla is very different from some stocks out there, but it's also very unique. Now, as far as the short interest goes, we're still seeing a big decline here and there, which is a sign that many of the shorts have been covering, which is in turn pushing the share prices up as they start to buy back those shares. On top of that, there's lots of buyers still stepping in. We're starting to see puts being closed on Tesla, which is allowing the market makers to hedge by buying more of the shares, which once again pushes the share price up. So lots of bullish signals out there. The volume was 73 million on Friday, which was no surprise because Fridays tend to not be the most bullish days for the markets, and yet Tesla was still green despite the somewhat red day the market had after the unemployment data, which in turn wasn't actually that bad. It was pretty decent overall. Just some red flags were out there, such as wages going up a little bit too much and some things just not being the best. It wasn't that bad. And what I'm liking is this whole price pairs, or the short volume percentage relative to price. This is actually, it went up a little bit as Tesla slowed down, but I expect it to just go kind of sideways, maybe come down a little bit more, which once again would be a good sign. Now, one good thing about Tesla in the market is when you look at SPY, the S&P 500 ETF, okay, notice the put to call ratios. They're still relatively high, at least maybe not as high for Monday or Tuesday, but very high for Wednesday. The market is still expecting a big drop. And we know when the majority of people out there are trading puts and trying to short the market, the opposite tends to happen. I also noticed that a lot of these used to be over 2.0. They actually came down a bit, which shows a lot of big institutions have been closing the puts as the market's been performing pretty well. As far as the economic calendar goes, there's not really too many big events coming out for tomorrow. I think we may have some Fed speakers, but nothing too major. there isn't really anything too huge coming out. We have some manufacturing prices data, but we do have more mortgage data coming out for Wednesday. So that is going to be worth watching. There are a lot of institutions betting the market's going to come down because of that. We'll have to wait and see. I don't think it's going to be that bad though. One good thing for the markets though, as far as China goes, is obviously the situation is almost identical to what it was like before, but we are seeing some loosenings of their restrictions. So that's a good sign for many investors out there because these lockdowns are not the best of things. And the last thing I want to talk about is something that Tesla mentioned. Actually, there's nothing really new. The Tesla Semi is still very strong. I think it's going to be a very, very bullish catalyst long term. I made a video about that yesterday. So now let's actually hop into the charts now that we have the context about the markets. So as far as Tesla goes, I believe this thing is going to continue to outperform the SPY and the QQQ and also start pushing the QQQ up a little bit more because Tesla is still primed for some nice move. Overall, it looks like it's flagging right over here. This actually has a very, very nice looking setup. And if I actually close the extended hours, because it doesn't really change anything, not much has happened in the extended hours. Look at this overall setup. It looks very bullish in my opinion. We have this huge, huge, huge rally to almost $200. We start to flag right here come down, and you could even argue this almost resembles a falling wedge, and then we should see a big reaction relatively soon, maybe as soon as Monday. If not Monday, hopefully by Tuesday we see a big move to the upside, and I do believe Tesla is set to retest 200. Now there's also a very good chance that buyers will continue to step in this market, and we are going to most likely see Tesla break past 200 in my honest opinion, because so far the thing is just going and going and going. If you look at this setup, very, very strong uptrend right over here. You could even draw out a little trend line like this, make this as simple as possible. Once again, looking quite bullish overall, very, very strong, very nice. I want to see a big, big, big continuation. On the daily though, please note that Tesla is still very, very undervalued compared to where it was before. And typically when this happens, it gives this thing more potential to continue pushing. But one thing that does concern me a little bit about the market would be the levels we're seeing on the bigger funds out there. If we look at SPY, how could this actually slow Tesla down a bit? I'm not going to say it will slow Tesla down, but this is something worth noting. That's the fact that we have this descending broadening wedge that's simultaneously creating this resistance level right up here, and we tend to see SPY get rejected off of it. What's interesting about it is the SPY is actually right there. We're actually, in my opinion, going to try to retest it and maybe see about 410 tomorrow, but I don't know if we're going to break past it. That's the only issue I'm seeing. We did actually break above the daily 200 moving average. That's a very bullish signal. And overall, an uptrend has been respected, a very, very clean one. So in my opinion, it's very possible for us to actually break above it, but we have to wait and see first. Remember, we have a very big supply zone right here. Lots of sellers are going to try to defend their positions. The bears are going to try to bring this thing down. They do have a thesis that we tend to get rejected off this line. It could happen again, so be very careful. What I think is most likely going to happen is because of this high put to call ratio right here, I don't think the market's going to come crashing down tomorrow over the next couple of days. I think what's most likely going to happen is we push up and we retest the upper trend line. We trade sideways up here. Or what could happen is the bulls are super strong, because so far they're looking very strong. If you look at the daily candle on SPY, it looks pretty strong. We might just see this thing break above 400. That's going to be a super bullish signal for the markets. If we break 410, not 400, 410, we break 410 and we actually hold it, that's going to be a very bullish signal. And we could actually easily see this thing hit 414, followed by 417, then 420 pretty fast if we break and hold 410. So it's very possible. And if that happens, it would be a very good sign for Tesla and other stocks out there. As far as the Qs go, right here, you could see they were a little bit red, as was the whole market, but overall the setup is still pretty bullish looking, pretty strong. But we are hitting some very strong resistance. I also noticed that we have a gap that could get filled tomorrow. That makes me a little bit more bullish on Tesla in the market. So this thing could actually push and break above this 293 level. Sorry, all these numbers are throwing me off today. The 293 level, I think it's the weekend too. If we break 293, okay, this thing could likely begin to push and see this nice gap fill, and we could end up seeing the 294 zone get tested maybe as soon as tomorrow. That would be a bullish sign for Tesla. And if Tesla keeps pumping, this thing could break past 295 and continue to approach that 300. Very possible on the Q. I think it's very likely, but we first have to break past the 295 level. And if we do that, it's very likely that it's going to be accompanied by Tesla and Apple starting to push up a little bit more. Because when you look at Apple, it also has a nice gap that's still waiting to be filled. It looks like it's going to fill it very, very quickly. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see this thing in the 149 to 148 range as soon as tomorrow. So once again, it looks more bullish than bearish. As for Tesla, I mean, the overall setup looks very, very nice. I believe tomorrow is going to be the day we should get a big break to the upside, retest 200. And I don't know for sure if we're going to break past it, but there's a good chance maybe going into power hour tomorrow, Tesla gets a big break and this thing breaks above 200 and we see the low 200s pretty quickly. It's very possible it could even just fly past them. It looks like it really wants to run, guys. I wouldn't be surprised if we do that tomorrow. Now, as for like me trying to talk about what could end up playing out on like a smaller basis, I would talk about the fact that tomorrow I'd anticipate that Tesla's going to actually open like this around this like 195 level, and we should get a big push into open. Maybe the first 30 minutes Tesla pushes, maybe retests 200. Then we might slow down a little bit as the day goes on. This is what tends to happen to Tesla. And then finally we bounce, and during the last like 2 hours or so, this thing starts pushing up even more. I wouldn't be surprised if we see this thing actually close very close to 200, maybe above 200. And this thing could be getting ready to start pushing even harder. And that's part of the reason why the QQQ looks like it could push up a little bit more, because Tesla and Apple and the mega caps are going to help to push it up, in my opinion. So overall, it looks more bullish than bearish. I really like the bullish setup I was talking about how it's flagging. And as far as technical indicators go, if we look at our MACD, our RSI, and you can even look at other things, I'm just going to focus mainly on these two. On the bigger time frames like the 2 hour, I'm actually liking the setup. As of right now, we're seeing the MACD is still quite open. It's starting to actually see the resistance slow it down a bit, which is why Tesla has been slowing down a little bit. But overall, RSI is pretty much correlated with the overall trend. It still looks relatively strong and it's not completely overbought, which means Tesla tends to have more room to continue pushing. I also like the fact that Tesla was not too long ago respecting this uptrend, and it looks like we could see it approach the 50 moving average relatively soon. That's around that like 215 level. That would be my target if this thing breaks and holds 200. So overall, the trend still looks more bullish. We're still respecting an uptrend. I'm liking the setup. So for tomorrow, like I said, I'm hoping we can retest 200 and maybe break past it. I'm very optimistic. I do believe Tesla should end up seeing a nice move. If it does not happen tomorrow, I wouldn't be surprised if it happens for Tuesday, depending on how tomorrow goes. But overall, guys, Tesla looks more bullish than bearish, and the market does look like it could continue to push. Now, one thing you have to remember, like I mentioned before, watch 410 on SPY. If this thing breaks 410, and you see like 412 and it actually holds those levels, it could go flying to about 420, as many shorts are going to be squeezed out of their positions, and we're going to see more buyers really, really step in and start pushing the market up. Now, I also want to note one last thing before I end this video. Remember, guys, just because the market pushes, if it does truly push very hard, we see Tesla running, we see SPY hit 420, just because that happens, it does not mean that the whole bear market is completely over. Because you have to remember, the earnings recession is still going to continue, and we are going to likely see the market come back down going into next year, unfortunately. So please be very cautious when you are trading. Be very ready for what's about to come, because I have to be honest, earnings are not going to be the best because of the rate hikes, not to mention the fear, the psychological fear that's happening to retail investors and people all over the world. And that's going to affect the sentiment of the buyers out there, both from the institutional side and the retail side. So be very careful when the market pumps up. I do believe it's very possible to see SPY break 410, but we have to watch that first. I just want to note, be prepared for anything, because sometimes in the market, unexpected things could come. Thank you all for listening. Remain calm, cool, and collected. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Tesla to the moon, because the long-term future is still incredibly bright despite all of these nuances in the price action in the market. I'm still super, super bullish, and peace out.